giveaways over there, some free goodies over there. The Scotty guys out front and over here. The Lowrance guys are out front for any questions here after this. Charles Lowe's is across the bar and talking about bar crossings and Oliver know about, so I'm going to turn him loose on you. He's got a great website. I know lots of people that pay close attention to it and follow his instructions. We should all do the same. Charles, thank you.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right, you in the back row are charged with telling me if you can't hear me anymore, because I'll do this. Okay, wow, it's good to see so many familiar faces and a nice tight little group. Please ask your questions as we go along. We'll have a question and answer at the end, but if anything comes to mind, raise your hand and let's talk about it. So, my performance standard for my students in terms of crossing the bar is that they should never get locked out of a rough bar. They should never be on the ocean and not be able to come back because the bar is closed. And the forecast tools are good enough to allow that. And I don't know that my students have ever been locked out of a locked bar, but I tell them, not loud enough?
There you go.
Okay, all right. But I tell them if that happens, you, Captain, have done something wrong, and you can't just pin it on changing conditions. So I know it's a high standard. I could say it's a high bar, but that would be okay. It works. So I'm a mechanical engineer largely because my dad told me to, and it was a decent career, and it was a job, but I never had much passion for it. Ocean Coach is a passion. I love doing this work. I love turning students loose out on the ocean and watching them just crush it out there. For the first time perhaps in their lives, being confident across the bar. I really, really enjoy this stuff. Jacket patches. I don't have any. Nobody sponsors me. That's by design. Okay? I get all my revenue from my students, and I charge a lot. But that allows me to be completely independent. I advocate for my students 100%. I can recommend anything, any piece of equipment. I'm not associated with anybody. My students get the very best of me, and all my loyalty is toward them. And I also get to recommend people that are good. Like I'm standing here at England Marine. Why? Because these people have earned my trust over 20 years, and the reason I'm here is I know they will treat my students well. I just know that. So I can freely direct them. Hey, go to England. They know their stuff. They're fair. They're honest. They're good people. My newsletter. Okay, sign up for this newsletter. This is really good stuff. And I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean, for example, NOAA just changed their weather forecast model. You might have seen it. I talked to them at length, and I wrote a 2-article series in the newsletter explaining it all. Some of you might still wonder why can't we keep the first 2 coho? Why do we have to throw back the native bleeding and dying? Well, I went to ODFW and had the ocean salmon manager write an article in the newsletter to explain it. So this is good stuff. Nobody ever unsubscribes. It's free. So get on that newsletter. Okay. All right, so bar crossing safety is not about boat, or whether you have an offshore bracket, or how much dead rise you have, or how thick your hull is, or if you've got a Honda, or a Yamaha, or a Garmin ABC XYZ. It is on you, Captain. If the captain is right, it will be all right. I get a lot of invitations to go on people's boats. If I know the captain, I know everything will be right. I don't care. 19 foot, 24 foot. North River, Arima, I don't care. Because if the captain knows their stuff, everything will be fine. There will be plenty of gas, the thing will be well maintained, they will have looked at the weather, they will have planned everything, they can navigate back and out, even in the fog, everything is fine. It's not about gear, it's not about equipment. There's an awful lot of talk about equipment, but when it comes to bar safety, it's about the captain. Okay, nobody's going to challenge me on that? All right, so let's talk about statistics. You know, I want to keep you safe. The statistics year after year after year say the same thing. The #1 cause of death is lack of life jackets, collision, and intoxication. This is a picture of a commercial boat on the beach. I think it's Florence, I don't know. That's a collision. When you hit the beach, when you hit a good piling, when you hit another boat, that's a collision. I know we're talking about bar crossings, but people hit the jetties and they hit the beach. So keep your neck on a swivel, take care of that one. Life jackets, it just goes without saying. If you're not wearing a life jacket from the time you get on the boat to the time you get off, I just don't consider you a serious person. I'm sorry. It's just so basic. And today's life jackets are so good, there's really no excuse for it. It'll keep you alive. And intoxication. This one, this was just a couple days ago in Florida. A guy drinking and ran into a bridge buck. So to keep yourself safe, I know we're going to be on bar crossing. Those are the three things. Okay. All right. So how do you decide when it's safe to go across the bar? I can guarantee you, if there was an app, you'd have it. If there was a flow chart, England Marine would be handing them out on laminated plastic. If there was a formula, you would all have it. There is none, people. It's this. It's your mental computer. It's just too complex. Maybe AI will come up with something. I don't know. I asked ChatGPT once if it was safe to cross the Tillamook Bar, and I just got nonsense. So it's all in here. It's education. It's not equipment. Yeah, you have to study the ocean itself. To me, you need to know wind, swell, tide, and what is the structure of the bar. How did it get there? Why is it dangerous? Where are the dangerous parts, okay? So it's really applied oceanography. I can't say that because nobody wants to take a course in applied oceanography, but that's kind of what it is. All right, and you know, these are the four pillars of knowledge: wind, swell, tide, and the bar. I want to get a neon light for the back wall of my studio that has these three things: wind, swell, and tide. Because you understand all that, then you can go to judgment, and then you can decide safe to go, not safe to go. All right, so let's talk about wind. Wind is the most unpredictable of the four pillars. Unfortunately, our wind forecasts on this piece of the coast are lousy. They're just not that good, as you well know. One reason is the biggest wilderness in the world is the Pacific Ocean. Not a lot of weather stations out there. Pity the poor forecasters who are trying to predict the wind. If you're sitting in Cincinnati, you've got weather stations all around you. It's a whole lot easier to predict the wind. But out here, one of our realities is that the wind forecast is squirrely. It's often wrong. It's often wrong a lot, especially on a south wind. So this is our most unpredictable. We're moving really fast, by the way, so questions, anybody, questions, stories, complaints? Okay. This is wind chop. You'll see this on rivers, lakes, ponds. It's very simple. The wind blows, and you get white caps. The wind stops, and the white caps go away. It's a little more complicated than that. But that is plain old wind chop. Wind waves. This is swell. Swell is an entirely different animal. You notice how even and regular it is. We're going to talk about swell a little bit. But wind chop and swell are two completely different things. All right? And we're going to talk about swell in some detail because it's really interesting. Just a little bit of a takeaway. I like to say the fun stops at 12 knots of wind. If it's below 10 knots, 12 knots, 10 knots or so, everybody on the boat is happy. Even your cousin from Des Moines, Iowa, who's never been on the ocean. There's no white caps. The drift is perfect for bottom fishing. You just got little ripples, and it's great. Right around 12 knots, you start to get white caps. 13 knots, you get the white caps. And then the whole feeling on the boat changes because some people are getting scared. Now you're rocking a little bit. There's a little bit of white caps. It looks a little scarier. So right around that 12 knot break point, mean, a lot of us fishing 12 and 15 knots, and I'm sure you probably will too, but just understand that when you reach that 12 knot point, things change a little bit. It's just not quite as pleasant. 15 knots, you've got pretty good sized white caps. Most people don't really want to be out there. You know, and again, we fish at 15 knots, but most people won't want to be out there. So if you see 15 knot forecast, 17, 18, 19 is really no fun. It's just no fun. And your boat will take it, probably, but it's just no fun at all. Does that square with what you guys have found? I'm getting some little bits of head nods. Okay, nobody gonna, okay, there's a big head nod, I'm good with that. And she's having a great time. I mean, that's probably 20 knots of wind. And, you know, the sailors love it, the windsurfers love it. But for a fisherman, 12 knots. All right, let's talk about swell. Swell is the most complex of the four pillars of knowledge. And this, I just love that this is true. Swell creation requires two things. You need a lot of wind blowing for several days. Okay. And that wind has to blow over a distance of several hundred miles. So think about that. You'll never get wind on the or swell on the river because you don't have hundreds of miles for the wind to blow over. You'll never see it on the ponds, you'll never see it on the lake. The Great Lakes kind of get a little bit of a swell-ish sort of thing. Even in Puget Sound, you're not going to see swell. All that stuff is wind chime. So I just love that this is true. The only thing that generates swell is the great ocean storms across the world. And this is a snapshot of a site called I'll think of it.
Storm surge.
Storm Surf. Thank you. Who said that? Oh, it says up there. Okay. Yeah, gray hair, I lose the nouns. But anyway, so this is just a shot, a random shot of the storms around the world. And since it's winter down in the southern hemisphere, a lot of storms down there. We get swell from there. We get swell from New Zealand. As is typical, there's a storm off Japan, Gulf of Alaska. We get a ton of swell from those places. But what you might be able to start to discern is that we got swells coming from all different directions all the time. And those swell forecasts will give you one swell, north 5 feet at 14 seconds, fine. But in reality, we got these storms all around the world, all generating swell. And most of them will be small and secondary, but they're there. And that's why when you get out there, it doesn't quite look like the forecast. It's because you've got multiple swell trains piling on top of each other, and then the wind chop piling on top of that, and then the residual chop from 10 hours ago piling on top of that. So that's the nature of this. Does that make sense? Okay. Oops. So the thing about swell is once it's created, it lasts forever until it hits a beach somewhere. Swell will travel the world. If it goes through a patch of wind, it will emerge at the other side, largely unchanged. If it goes through a major storm, it will get changed. It's swell and chop are completely independent. And once it's created, it's created. It's there. And when it will go until it hits a beach somewhere. And I want to talk about swell the way surfers under. Any surfers here? Okay, keep me straight. If I say anything nonsense, you get it. Okay, good. So if you ever live in a surf town, the swell forecasts are pretty good. But if there's a forecasted swell coming in 4 days, you start to hear it. You hear it at Starbucks, you hear it at the gas station. Oh man, there's a big south coming in. It's going to be 7 foot. It's going to be epic. I'm going to be down at Blackie's. Where are you going to be? Is that right? Get the chatter? Okay. Okay, because the surfers live for swell, right? And then the first day the swell's supposed to hit, everybody's out in the lineup at sunrise. There's no waves. And then that first set when the swell comes in, 5 days. Everybody's riding, it's great, it's awesome. It might be 10 minutes before the next set. It might be 20 minutes, it might be 40 minutes. And then by the afternoon, that swell is mature, and maybe the sets are coming every 10 minutes, or 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes. And then that goes on for a couple days, and then the swell starts to diminish. There's 10 minutes between sets, 15 minutes, 40 minutes between sets. So the point is, the swell has a beginning, middle, and end. And it can be up to 40 minutes between sets. Now think about that. Think about the concept of sneaker waves. So you're out trolling the bar, which I don't recommend, but they do it at Tillamook. And you get out there in the jaws and you watch for 5-10 minutes. There's no big waves. You go out there and you troll 10-15 minutes. Everything's fine, there's no big waves. All of a sudden the big set comes through, everybody says sneaker wave like it's the great evil. No, it's just that sets are widely spaced. And you can take it a while. So just be aware that the swell has a beginning, middle, and end. All right, did I do okay on that? All right. Cool. All right, swell has 3 things you need to know. Height is pretty self-explanatory. Direction is pretty self-explanatory. And then there's period. Period is the time between passing crests. So if you're out on that oil rig and you've got your smartphone with the stopwatch function, and you look down and a crest goes by, you hit the button. And then when the next crest goes by, you hit the button again, you're going to get 5 seconds. That's not good. 8 seconds, 12 seconds, 14 seconds, whatever. That time is the period. It's the period, okay? And that's different from the time between sets and waves. The swells tend to group themselves into sets and lulls, not so much into summer. I know I'm moving way too fast. But the period is really, really important. And long period swell and short period swell both have their advantages and disadvantages. We don't have time to do all that today, but does anybody have a preference for a long or short period swell?
Long.
Okay, I heard a lot of the surfer guy. I heard a lot of long. Why do you like a long period swell?
Because the boat doesn't porpoise and rise as often.
Okay. So kind of a smoother ride sort of thing? You guys agree with that? Okay. Yeah, you're right. The trouble is long period swells are much worse on the bar. Because a long period swell has a lot of oomph, it has a lot of power, it has a lot of shoulders. And you'll see this, especially in the fall when you're out there in the ocean and it's glassy, and these swells come at you, and they may not be really big, but they're like mountains. They're intimidating, they have so much power, and they do. When you get a long period swell, by that I mean the period is 2 to 3 times the height, like 5 feet at 15 seconds. That is a beast. That is a beast on the bar. It's just, long period swells have accumulated much more energy from the wind. So what happens is, people cross the bar all summer on a 5-foot swell, 5 feet at 8 seconds or 9 seconds. And then in the fall, all of a sudden it's 5 feet at 15 seconds and the bar is a monster because the long period swells pack so much oomph. And just to give you an example, 5-foot short period swell, when it hits the beach and breaks, or hits the bar and breaks, it'll probably peak up to 7 feet. So it'll go from 5 feet to 7 feet. 5-foot long period swell might peak up to 12 feet. It's a monster. My fact checker in the back doesn't look disturbed, so I think I'm doing well. Is that right? Yeah, and you guys check the period all the time, right? Absolutely. Who wants to ride wind chime? That's just no fun at all. Okay. Any other comments on what's good or bad about long period versus short period? Yes, sir.
Is there any truth to the square, like 5-foot swells, 5 seconds?
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, he's talking about a square swell, which is the height equals the period, which means it's really bumpy. That's just a miserable thing to be on. That's borderline, just wind chop, and it has that wonderful word square swell. Yeah, it's rare. I don't see that. You see it very often. I don't see it that often. Anybody see that? Every once in a while. Every once in a while. Okay. I always hesitate to put this up because safety on the ocean and bar crossings is a function of so many variables. So I have my little disclaimer down here. Don't sue me. But everything else being equal, this is kind of what I use for what's a safe swell and whatnot. 0 to 4 feet is about as good as it gets on this coast. That's gold. I mean, that's really an easy bar crossing, an easy ocean. And again, please, that's not strictly true. It's not strictly true at all, but just as a beginning guideline. All summer long, we'll get 5 and 6 foot swell forecast. That's the yellow zone for me. That's not a green light. If it's 5 feet, I'll probably go. 6 feet, I probably won't. It just depends. Depends on the period, the tide, the wind, all that other stuff. And then 7 feet plus, I'm not going. That's just me. I'm just not going. Newport might be open, but I'm just not going. That's my standard. Is that square with your experience? Yeah? Okay. Yes, sir.
Are you talking about like the swell at the buoys at the mouth?
Deep water swell. Yeah, not waves on the beach. That's an important distinction. Really important distinction. Okay, we're moving really fast. Tide is the most predictable of 4 pillars. Understanding tides is more complex than you think it is, and there's like 40 variables that go into calculating the tides and the tide tables. But the tide tables are dead accurate years in the future. And the beauty of that is you can plan your days off this summer, next summer, based on the tides. It isn't going to change. And that's one reason I say you shouldn't be surprised by a rough bar, because rough bar depends on 2 things, which are tide and what else? Swell, right? What I didn't say is wind. Bar crossings don't depend on the wind too much, because if it's that windy, you're not out there anyway. It's not the way I look at it. So safety on the bar depends on 2 things, tide and swell. Tide is 100% predictable, so you can't screw it up. I've got more to say about that in a minute. Oops. This is jumping. Okay, so tide and bar crossings, everything else being equal, you want a higher tide run, a lower tide because the water's just deeper. That's pretty simple. That's pretty simple. But it's a secondary consideration, it's not the main consideration. The big problem is the ebb current that you have all heard about. And that's when you have an outgoing tidal current that meets the incoming swells and they clash and they fight each other. That's the big problem. Opposing forces. An outgoing current, which can be 5 knots, which is faster than you can walk, and an incoming big swell, and when they hit, that can really cause problems on the bar. So what is an ebb current? It's water flowing downhill. That's all it is. So imagine the Columbia River estuary here, it's high tide. It's full of water, right? And the water level in the ocean, you can't do that. The water level in the ocean is high, the water level in the estuary is high. Now the tide starts to go out. That means that the water level in the ocean starts going down. Well, all that water in the estuary, the water flows downhill. It's going to start flowing downhill toward the ocean. And it's going to have to go through those narrow jaws between the jetties. That's actually quite a restriction. It's quite a nozzle. And so all that pent-up water gets to rushing downhill, and it can cause quite an ebb current. How many Columbia River people do we have here? Yeah, you guys know, right? I mean, it screams. And it's really a factor. But all that is water running downhill. Oh, Holly. Where's Holly? Need her to start my video. Sorry, I should have given you notice.
You're okay,
Beautiful. And just sit tight because I want you to repeat it after it goes. This is not a river. This is an ebb current in Netart's Bay. This is a moderately big tidal span, not a huge one. But you notice there's rapids like you would see in the river. You notice it's chewing up the bank. It's a serious current. And this bay has killed 8 people in the last 15 years. Because people go out crabbing, and it's a beautiful day, and they don't know it's an ebb tide, and their motor dies, and that river sweeps them out into 12-foot inner surf, with the water temperature is 48 degrees, and they're done. So, ebb current, sorry, one more time, please, Holly. Oops,
What happened?
we went, there you go.
Oh, but keeps doing it. What the heck? Now it doesn't want to click. There it
It's
is.
always the tech.
Yep.
Always the tech. So that's an ebb current all by itself. They can be a real problem. But you imagine that slamming into big incoming ocean swells, and that's the problem. Questions, comments, stories? Yes.
What's your favorite resource for swell data?
For swell what?
Swell data.
I like windy.com. I used to like NOAA, but they changed their system, and I'm going to talk about that. Your question is excellent, and if I can use it as a segue, I'm going to do that. But I like windy.com. Okay, anything else? Questions? Comments? Yes, sir.
So, on the ebb, sometimes we've experienced, I don't know if you have a general rule for this or not, but when you have a negative tide where it's flushing out extremely hard, yet you have a calm ocean with a minimal swell, say at 3 feet with a decent duration between them, a lot of times the ebb and the current from the river overpowers the water, if you will, and you can treat it as a flushing you out type motion, if you will. And a lot of that, I think, just comes from experience of where you're fishing and knowing the area. Do you have any general rules for that? People ask me that all the time. I don't. I don't have a general rule except for that ocean better be calm. In order to be able to do that, you better have a negative tide.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, and if you could bear with me, I've got an answer for you. It's not a complete answer, but that's really the crux, isn't it? Is balancing the tide forecast with the swell forecast and making that judgment call. That's really the crux of it, and it's a difficult problem. I'm going to show you something in a minute that might help a little bit. Okay, good question. Anybody else? Okay. There are tides and there are tides. So you're probably familiar with this. This is a tide chart. So we got time of day across the bottom, that's noon, and the height of the tide there. And the yellow is daylight hours. This is tides.net, which I really like. They want $18 a year, but I really like this site. So 2 high tides, right? Different heights. 2 low tides, different heights. That is an artifact of the West Coast. That isn't true on the East Coast. On the East Coast, the 2 high tides are the same height. The 2 low tides are the same height. And it's really confusing because a lot of what's written about boating is assuming the 2 high tides are the same height. Out here, it's the Wild West. We have really, really strange tides. So, yeah. What kind of fishing day is this? If you wanted to go fishing today, what are your thoughts on when you could get across the bar and come back? What was that? Yeah, and someone said afternoon. This is a terrible day. Huh?
Pick another day.
Pick another day, the man said. That's absolutely right. This is a terrible day. So you want to you want to cross the bar at sunrise, that's in the middle of a giant ebb. All right? In a lot of places, you're not getting across the bar unless there's almost zero swell. That's just a terrible day. The earliest you could probably cross the bar is 11 o'clock, right around the time when the sea breeze starts. So this is a terrible day. And if you're planning days off, you want to see a day like that? Not so much. Not so much. Now look at this little ebb tide here. This little guy is only what? 1.5 foot drop. You can probably cross on that kind of ebb tide because there's not a lot of water moving. But that big monster, man. Now tell me about this day.
Good day. Good day.
Good day. I mean, to my eye, you can cross anytime you want. Anytime you want. Because you launch at low slack, come back and forth on the flood tide. The ebb tide's only 1.5 foot. That's almost nothing. So this day contrasts the other one. You can cross almost any time you want-ish. Does that make sense? Yeah, here's one. This is a short day. You can cross at sunrise, but you better be back by 11 a.m. That means run out, get your coho, and come back. Or run out, get a few lingcod, and come back. Whatever. This is a short day because if you stay out beyond 11, you're on that giant ebb. You're probably not coming home till dark. So, and maybe you want to do that. Maybe you want to do that. But if your crew starts getting seasick at 2 o'clock, they're out of luck because you're probably not coming back. So the point is, and this is why I like tides.net. You got a whole month to look at, and you can pick your days. All right, let's look at Lahaina. 2-foot tidal span. That's nothing. In New Jersey, it's 6 feet, and they're equal. So wherever you go in the world, look at the tide chart. I'll tell you what, we have the worst, wildest, most difficult to deal with tides in the continental U.S. I think Alaska's got it worse, but anybody who's dealing with these tides is really an expert at it. Let's go back a little bit. I said tide is 100% predictable, but I left out a very important part, and that's the time delay between published low tide and when the water stops moving. And you've probably seen that. If the tide table says, it's low tide at noon, don't go out there and expect the water to be slack at noon. It takes a little while longer for the water to stop moving. Why is that?
Got to finish that in.
Okay, I heard 2 things. One, there's a lot of force. Yes, sir. And imagine that all the water in the estuary is moving toward the ocean at 3 knots. Think of the inertia. Think of the momentum. Think of what it takes to stop that flow. It wants to keep going, and it's going to keep going, even though it's low tide in the ocean. That momentum is going to keep that current going. And then what did you say, sir?
The bay have to finish that too, or the river need to come back down that road?
Yeah, because there's so much water, it can't squeeze out through that little nozzle into the ocean fast enough. So there's that time delay. And how long is it in the Columbia River? A couple hours? Does that sound right? Yes, no, maybe? A couple hours? Can be. And it all depends, of course, on the tidal span. There's one other factor that's a little more subtle on the Columbia River specifically. Any guesses?
Wind?
Not so much. A little. What's that? That's a big one. That's a big one. How about Bonneville?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they open the gates, there's just a ton of water coming down, and that will not be in your tide forecast charts. You have tidal current charts on your chart plotters, or you can go to Deep Zoom, and it'll tell you the current direction and speed, and you can see that there's a time delay. But if Bonneville opens the gates, or if there's a lot of rain, it's going to prolong that time delay. So yes, the tide charts are accurate, but you captains get to decide what the time delay is. And a lot of times that's just by this kind of local knowledge. I don't quite trust the tidal current tables. They just don't seem right to me sometimes. So. All right. Any stories about that? All right, we're going to be done early here, people. All right, we talked about tide, we talked about wind, we talked about swell. Let's talk about the bar itself. And on the Columbia River, that is quite a story. This is hard to see, but this is a very typical bar. This is in Australia. You can see, I don't know if you can, the shallow area there. That's river sediment that causes the shallow area. It's an underwater river delta, in essence. That is one of the classic shallow areas in a bar. This is an aerial view of Netarts Bay, and you can see that shallow area, right? It's usually a semicircle like that. That's where the waves are breaking, so that's a classic. You'll see that every bar in the world. But there's another shallow area. For you Columbia River people, that's the one you really are interested in. You see that? I outlined it in red. It's kind of that circle. That got there an entirely different way. That is not river sediment. What that is when the waves hit a sandy beach, they usually hit at an angle, not straight on, usually at an angle. And that causes a little bit of a current. And you've probably seen that. You go to the beach, and you stand knee deep in the water, and there's a little bit of a wave coming off you going down the beach. That's called a longshore current. And that current entrains a bunch of sand. And that sand heads down the coast until it hits an estuary, where the water calms down, and then it all falls out. It's a sand spit, is what it is. And the battle for the Columbia River. Oh, I just want to show you this. This is Tillamook Bay. It's hard to see, but there's this semicircle of shallow here. That is the river sediment, and then there's a little hook-shaped thing here. That's from the longshore current, so you can see it. And Tillamook has short, crummy, broken down jetties, and they don't dredge it. So somebody's nodding there. So the natural bar structure is kind of in place. In Newport, not so much because they dredge it. But the Columbia River, okay, this is the Battle of the Spits. This is what the Columbia looked like in 1885. That's 20 years past the Civil War. That's horse and buggy days. That's, the Model T didn't show up until 1906. But here's Fort Stevens, and here's Clatsop Spit, this whole monster, and Peacock Spit, this whole monster. And of course, ships were dying out there all the time, so in 1885, they said, let's put in a South Jetty. So they put in this guy here. That was the first of the jetties. By 1895, that was in place. And you can see what happened. Peacock Spit got smaller, Clatsop Spit got smaller, and they just kept doing this through the 19th century, early 20th century, until what we have now is, and this was all, these spits are generated by the longshore current, okay? 1950, they put in more jetties, and they've really tamed those two spits. Fort Stevens Fort Stevens used to be a coastal defense battery and it was right on the water. It's not on the water anymore, is it? It's because the sand has filled in and created new land. Right? And this is what you have today. This is a Google Earth shot. Here's Fort Stevens. Used to be right on the water. It's now way inland. All this is new land that was accrued because of this South Jetty here. Cape Disappointment, it's all filled in. It's been a massive, massive change. And here's the takeaway for you. Mother Nature wants those sand spits to be there. There are huge forces creating those sand spits. And the Corps of Engineers is fighting them with jetties. But those sand spits want to be there. And they remain really, really dangerous. Don't mess with Clatsop spit and Peacock spit. Right here, right there, in 1977, a 42-foot Coast Guard boat capsized on that spit. They were on a training mission and they just kind of screwed up. There's a book about it. It's pretty cool. And just today, I wonder if somebody here has an update. I heard that a guide boat cut the corner up here, went north, cut the corner right at the jetty, and capsized, and they found 2 out of 5 people. They got all 5? Thanks be to God. Okay. Okay, so my takeaway is people don't cut the corner, go out straight, miles, then turn right or left, north or south. Because if you get out of the jetty and head straight south or straight north, you are going across a spit that Mother Nature wants to be there, and there's no end to the fatalities and accidents on those spits. So even if it looks calm, don't mess with that, because you are messing with a giant force of nature. Anybody have any story? Anybody want to? Yes, no, yes, sir.
I'm going to dispute you on cutting the jetty. The south jetty, more often than not, is a lot calmer than the north jetty. A lot of time. And I'm not sure why, but you can cut that corner, the north corner, like that gentleman did today. You don't do that. The charter boats do a lot. And that's why those guys fall and then get in trouble. So, I mean, you can play it however you want, but there are more often than not, you can get out the south side or the north, no fun.
All right, he's saying that you can cut the corner on the south side. I respect your local knowledge, and I just can't recommend it. You know, you're here, you're a local, and I'm not, so I definitely respect your local knowledge. Just certainly for newbies, go out a little bit farther. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. There's no hard and fast answers here. Okay, this is Newport. Newport, they dredge it, they have nice long jetties. There's really no bar at the entrance. They defeated the bar with a nice long jetty. Okay, for the gentleman in the red hat and the sunglasses on top of the hat and the cool surf shirt. Yeah, you wanted to know, is there any general guideline kind of correlating swell, tide, and all that? If you can understand this graph and the structure of it, you will understand a lot, so bear with me. And I created this, you're not going to find this online, I don't have any hard data to back it up. It's not the numbers that matter, it's the pattern that matters. So I got swell height, right? And along this axis, I've got the probability that the bar will be passable. And let's just say for now, that's not the Coast Guard has it open or not, but that it is passable in the judgment of a capable captain. All right, so the blue line is high slack, best case conditions for crossing the bar. Why? The water's deep, it's not moving. So best case conditions for crossing the bar. You know, 3-4 foot swell, you're going to be able to get across the bar. But let's look at 6 feet. So 6 foot swell, what's the probability of getting across the bar if you just read the graph?
70%.
Okay. All right, what about that? Now the red is worst case conditions. A strongly ebbing low. Okay, you're near low, you got a powerful ebb current, it's a terrible time to cross the bar. That same 6 foot swell, what's your chance of getting across the bar?
11%.
And again, these numbers are, it's not the numbers, it's the concept. But that's the game we're always playing, is we can't always cross it by slack. You always got to cross at a time that's good enough. And so that's the whole game. Here, if you look at a 5 foot swell, it's the same kind of thing. And once you get to 7 or 8 feet, the bar's probably going to be closed anyway. Does that make sense? If you get that, all right, guy in the red hat, does that make sense? Okay. I mean, it's the best I got. Now, what I don't have here is span of the tide. That would be a 3-dimensional graph and we'd all go crazy. And I don't have swell period. So there's a lot more that goes into that. But if you understand this structure, that's what you're trying to do, is cross when the conditions are good enough. All right, questions? Bored, everybody? Nobody's sleeping? All right. I want to take a diversion into the NOAA forecast. They changed it, and I don't like it. And I actually had 2 newsletter articles about this. It used to be simple, west swell 9 feet at 13 seconds. Simple. And then they give you the wind waves. Now they've changed it. These are actual NOAA forecasts from yesterday, I think. So look at this. Now they say seas 4 to 6 feet, wave detail northwest 3 feet at 4 seconds. Okay, the 4 seconds tells you it's really short period, which tells you it's wind chill. But how can the seas be 4 to 6 feet, but they're only 3 feet? And the answer is they're talking about significant swell height and all that, but to me that's just not helpful or user-friendly. That's not giving me a swell forecast. I can kind of conclude that there's not enough swell to even mention, but it's just, and here's another one. Seas 4 to 6 feet, northwest 3 to 4. So the seas are 4 to 6 feet, the detail says it's only 3 feet. And that kind of makes my head explode. Here's one. Seas 5 to 7 feet. The details are you've got northwest 6 feet at 8 seconds and southwest 3 feet at 17 seconds. So those are 2 different swells coming in. And there's not really much in the way of wind waves because they don't mention it. Okay, here's another one. Seas 5 to 8 feet. Detail 2 feet at 4 seconds, 5 feet at 8 seconds, and southwest 3 feet at 18 seconds. So sometimes you get 1 detail, sometimes you get 3. If you really know your stuff and you understand significant wave height, if you understand period, you can kind of pick this apart. But I just don't like this. I don't think it's helpful. And if you're listening to this on the radio, you're just going to get lost. So I unfortunately don't recommend the NOAA site very much at all. I don't know, what's your experience, comments? Yes?
So it's got 2 sets of northwest with 2 different dimensions. What's that?
Which one are you talking about?
The bottom, the northwest 2 at 4 and then northwest 5 at 8.
See, I talked to them about that. They said anything less than 6 seconds is wind waves, and anything longer than 6 seconds is swell. So this would be wind waves, that would be swell.
So swell to the surface chart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Why wouldn't they say that?
Robin, why wouldn't they say that? I called them up and I said, why? The story is this is kind of East Coast centric and it works for them, but it doesn't work for us. Anybody else had trouble with this or any got any advice? Yeah. Anybody figured out how to use it well?
Call you, that's what I
Okay. Anyway, I don't like it. I'm really disappointed. All right, the site I do like is windy.com. And there are others like it. Windy.com, it's great. You get a forecast at 3-hour intervals. It goes 5 days in the future. You drop a pin on the location you're interested in, and then you get this data table. It's beautiful. It gives you wind speed and direction. It shows you the trend. You get swell height, direction, swell period. It's beautiful. I like it a lot. Anybody here use Windy? How do you find it accurate? Decent? That's pretty decent. We're running a little fast here, so I'll give you a little tip here. ECMWF stands for, this is the European model, European supercomputer model that forecasts worldwide conditions. You can also click on that and get GFS, which is the US model. And you can toggle back and forth. So you can see what 2 weather predictions are. There's really 2 major ones in the world, European and the US. Toggle back and forth. If they say the same thing, yay. Sometimes they say vastly different things. One will say 10 knots, and another say 15. Or 2-foot swell versus a 5-foot swell. If you see that kind of disparity, it means that the weather's really hard to predict. So toggle back and forth. Okay, not sure how much more I have.
Do you find one being more accurate or reliable than the other, or?
No, I don't.
It's kind of do a sanity check.
Sanity check.
Okay.
Does anybody favor the European model over the US model? Yes, sir.
European one, they had way more resources.
You are right. NOAA's been underfunded for years, and we're falling behind. Yeah, I think you're right. So there's a vote for the European model. It's a little bit of an advantage, but I think it is there. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I have a free app that doesn't have all that on there. So which model am I getting?
I don't know. I don't like the phone version. It doesn't have as much information. And I pay for the premium, which is, I don't know, $12 a year. I would suggest you do that.
Sounds like that'd be well worth it.
I think it is. But again, I go to the laptop because you get a lot more information. Okay. This got screwed up when I converted from Keynote to PowerPoint. Okay. This is my man, RV, one of my early students, the most photogenic fisherman in the world. He took my class years ago. He's crushing it with his buddies out there on tuna. I talked to him on the radio once in a while. I offer all this stuff in a class. You've had 40 minutes. I've given you the best I could, but experience shows it takes about 4 hours of instruction to really give you everything you need to know, not only about the bar crossing, but about your day and planning your trip. So I do offer this course, and it's a series of online videos. It's on demand. It's step by step by step by step. And I've got a couple hundred students running up and down the coast who are just having a ball, who are crossing the bar confidently for the first time in their lives. So, and I really shouldn't say it's just an online class. You get also a consultant, all right? So my students have access to me anytime for questions, phone, email, text. And in my contract, I say that's for a year, but it's really forever. And so if you buy that course, I'll answer any of your questions anytime. I love hearing from my students. I just heard from a couple this morning. I like to stay in touch with my people. So it's really a no-fail situation. And I might even chase you down. There's one of my students in the audience here today. He bought my course and he just plowed through the first half of it and then he stopped. And I can monitor that. And so I reached out and I said, hey, I noticed you stopped. Is there anything I can do to help you? Do you want to jump on Zoom? You know, can I get you going again? And he wrote back, he's got some stuff going on. But so, I'm not going to let you fail. If you're willing to do the work, I will chase you down and we'll get through this material, okay? So it's a no-fail thing, yes sir.
Before you leave and all this, what part does the ProStar play, especially on this bar, in your go or no go?
Can you say more about that?
Okay, they're giving you a 16-foot restriction. You go out there, I run a 24-foot road, it'll be shortly, and you wish you were never out there. And the Coast Guard, they said it's restricted to 16 foot. And these guys that travel all the way down here all the time from Portland and everything, and they're, hey, there's no restriction. You don't know what you're doing. I'm surprised there's not more going on. So what part do they play?
That's a really good question. I have some opinions. I have some opinions. Number one is that the Coast Guard only updates the bar forecast or the bar conditions, what is it, every couple hours?
3.
3.
Every 3 hours.
You know that's not often enough.
We do. If you fish down here enough, you understand that. But I feel so sorry for the guys that are coming down here, hurrying up to go fishing, and
Yeah. So there are a couple things going on. Updating every 3 hours just is not enough. The conditions can change hugely. The whole tide change can change hugely. So that's one thing. The other thing is last bar report of the day and first bar report of the day. Because as I understand, at least at Tillamook, they'll do bar conditions at sunset. And then that holds until they get out and look at the bar at first light. But everything may have changed hugely overnight. And if you're relying on that last sunset restriction, and you get out there and big swells come in, that's a problem. That's a problem. The third thing is, some of these recruits are kind of raw, you know, that are making the call. And they don't always make the right call or the call you might make or I might make. So it's on you.
yeah.
Captain, it's on you. If the Coast Guard says the bar is open, but your eye says, no, you're doing the right thing. Okay, it's on you. And it's a time-honored thing to get out there with your buddies at first light, go charging across and look at the bar and you say, no, we're gonna go have breakfast. And until the tide changes. So you can't cross, if the Coast Guard closes it, you can't cross because you won't like the ticket. But if the Coast Guard has it open and you don't like what you see, you are exercising your duties as captain. Would you agree with that?
To a point, if you get out there so far, there's no turning around.
Say that again.
And if you get out there far enough, there's no turning around.
You're absolutely right. You know, you're absolutely right.
At least after August 1st, we got off. Right.
August 1st.
Yeah, the winter work, that's the weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a lot more options.
Yeah,
Yeah, I see you don't have to.
yeah. Okay, thanks for that. Anyway, so yeah, you're not buying a course, you're buying a transformation. You know, transformation through confidence and ability to cross the bar and really become the captain that everyone trusts. I can say that because I've seen this material work hundreds of times, and I've got your back. And if you do it, you're going to have a ball out there crushing. So that's all I got. Any questions? Yes.
You're talking earlier about delay, red tide and low tide, delay from water stops. You see the same thing on flood tide?
Yes. Definitely. He asked if you see that time delay on flood time too. Yes, we do. Maybe not as much.
I'm generally seeing that depending on how the exchange of water, it's anywhere from 45 to an hour and 45 delay. From the time it's reported or forecasted to real time, if you will. So stronger tide, the longer you're gonna wait to actually experience that one.
Yeah, an hour to an hour and 45 minutes. That sounds about right for you.
I've seen a lot too where incoming tides have, they're still not going over the pump, right? So you
Yeah,
drop
too.
your gear down, right? You know, the first 10 feet you're going behind the boat, and then all of a sudden
Yeah,
your gear's under the boat,
yeah,
depending on
very
what
true.
cold and warm water going over each other, whatever.
Did everybody hear that? He's talking about the stratification of the current, the tides coming in or out. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. Yeah, that happens too. Let's see. That's what I got. Yes, Holly. Okay. All right. Any other questions? I'll be around for a little while if you want to talk. Thanks, everybody. It's really good to see you.
England Marine has a whale of a deal for you.